Sourdough. Have you tried making your own sourdough starter? How has it turned out for you? Have you been able to make wonderful, bubbly starter, active and ready for all your baking needs? Have you been able to make those beautiful bread loaves, biscuits, cookies, and pastries that you and your family enjoy with a wonderfully made homegrown starter? Starter is basically made from the culturing of your whole grains or the grains that you choose to provide as your starter material, and it has the addition of water to it to make essentially a slurry or a paste, a mixture that these organisms can grow in. You have multiple organisms that are contained in your grains, specifically yeast and bacteria. Because you have these two competing entities, some in more numbers than others, when you're beginning your starter journey, you're going to have some competition one among the other. And this is very important when it comes to the outcomes of your starter. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some troubleshooting tips that you can use to get your starter up and going. And I'm also going to be showing you an example of a failed starter and some potential reasons why it may not have worked out so well. One big tip when it comes to working with your sourdough starter is your consistency. Have you built up a routine and are you consistently working in that same way based upon the schedule you have chosen? So if you have chosen to have your starter ready and waiting for you to be used all throughout the week, you have to be consistent with your feeding schedule. You want to make sure that you are feeding your starter. Of course, you should be using it and then replenishing it once you have used it up, adding in the desired flour amounts and your water, mixing thoroughly well and then setting it at the proper temperature. Another tip to consider is your temperature. What is the temperature that you are keeping your starter in? Is it too cool? Is it under 70 degrees? Or is it just too hot? Has it gone over the 85-degree mark? If so, temperature extremes can also cause your starter to fail. These organisms are living and they want to feel comfortable and be able to thrive. That nice and bubbly starter means that your yeasts are nice and active and you have the proper balance between your lactobacillus bacteria and your common yeast that you're finding on your grains. Another tip could be, are you making sure that you're not allowing your sourdough starter to go too long between feedings, especially if you have it left out and you haven't refrigerated it? If you have your starter left out, it may start to produce what's called hooch. Hooch is that alcohol layer that forms on the top of your starter, especially when you have left it for a bit of time and it is now hungry. That is your signal that you have to go ahead and refeed your starter. So try not to allow for your starter to go through these starvation modes, because that can lead to a decline in your healthy organisms and cause a weakening in your culture colony. These are just some few simple tips that will help get you started with growing and keeping a thriving starter culture ready and available for all your needs. It is so nutritionally packed and so much better of an option to use your own homegrown starter if you have it to make your own baked goods. There are also some cultures that you can buy from commercial sources that help you to get started even faster because the starter has already been made. But what a wonderful skill to develop to make your very own and not having to depend upon buying any from the store. But if you would like to start it quickly, you can purchase your own starter or even grab some from a friend that already has a well-established starter. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you what a failed starter looks like. It's important that we not only share the beautiful things, but that we also share the potential complications and challenges that may arise for all of us, no matter what level we're in. I'm going to be showing you my spelt starter. This one definitely, in comparison to my other starters, started out quite slowly and seemed to be struggling as we went on in time. We are past the week mark and we do see some bubbles and activity, but it seemed mainly to be quite flat and not as active as some of my others. And today we noticed that the smell was not quite like it was before. It was more of a fruity and kind of a sour smell. Now we're turning kind of cheesy, and when you look at the top, we are seeing what looks to be kind of powdery film. Now that is not a good sign. Some people say, oh well, go ahead and remove that mold off of the top, and if you can salvage what you can on the bottom, go ahead and use that. But I would say, from a medical point of view, from my background, I wouldn't trust it. I would just go ahead and start afresh, use another. You don't want to risk ingesting something that's not healthy for yourself or family. But times like these are so very helpful and educating when you can see what can actually go wrong, and then being able to share those findings and observations with others. Let's take a look at how we are looking. So this is our spelt starter. We were looking quite good up until today. You can see a powdery film on there that just does not belong, and it does not have nice aerated bubbles and activity like a normal starter should. I'm going to also drop in a clip of how a nice normal and active starter looks as well. I hope seeing that has been helpful for you, and that you will still be encouraged to go ahead and make your own. Just make sure you're being routine in all that you're doing. Some potential reasons why we may have developed some mold. It could be a missed feeding. I know there was a day or so where there was a missed feeding, and definitely I could see with this starter that it did not have very high activity at all throughout its time, and it was really just kind of moving slowly and slowly. So it seems like it did have some high needs and it just was never met, unfortunately. But it was a great learning experience to know, one, how does this grain behave, and is it one that would really work well for starters, and how it compares with other whole grains that we're using for our sourdough starter. If you have any questions or comments, please definitely leave them below, and you can follow me for more helpful tips, recipes, and insights on sourdough and whole grains on this channel, Sustainable Sourdough and Grains, and also on my website www.drmoniqueadu.com, where I have several blog posts and tips and tools that you can use to develop more and more sustainability and the knowledge of how you can use sourdough and whole grains to increase the health and nutrition in your home. Until next time, be more and more sustainable and be blessed.